Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Legends of Tomorrow Season 7 review series. And today I am going to be talking about Episode 7, A Woman's Place is in the War Effort, which I've just finished watching. And this episode was very up and down. There wasn't really a lot going on in the first half of this episode, but the second half of the episode, especially around the last 5 to 8 minutes left, I thought was really good. And there was a little surprise at the end of this episode, which I will talk about in a moment. And it's kind of got me excited a little bit for the next episode and maybe a couple of episodes after. So I'm going to give a quick recap of what's happened so far, then we're going to get straight into talking about episode 7. So, what's happened so far is we now have learned that Bishop was the one who took control of the Wave Rider and destroyed the Legends owned Wave Rider. So, he's basically got his own Wave Rider with a corrupted Gideon who he reprogrammed back to its default settings. So Gideon, or at least Bishop's Gideon, is now a mindless, cold, robotic drone, so to speak, kind of similar to how Hal was in Space Odyssey 2001, while the real Legends have Gideon, who's now essentially a human, or at least like in human form. So that's what's happened so far. And now fast forward to episode 7, which picks up at the end of episode 6, we see Dr. Gwyn Davis has already made a time machine, played once again by Matt Ryan, who is awesome as always. And we see the Legends travel back in time with Bishop trying to escape from the evil Gideon, and he ends up with the Legends as they land in 1943. And the Legends decide to lock up Bishop in the mansion, and we see the Legends smuggle components out of a nearby airplane factory in order to repair the time machine. We then see Astra meets Mr. Staples and she accidentally freezes him, and she takes over the factory and she integrates all of the factories, prompting most of the workers to quit. And then we see Astra helps the remaining workers finish building the plane. And then we also see in this episode Nate has declared that he is going to be moving in with the original Zari into the Totem, but not before completing one final mission. So we see over the course of this episode, Birad and Zari 2.0 are like teaching him the ways of Persian lifestyle. And we see that Bishop is ordering Birad to like make him food and drinks, much to his annoyance. So this part of the episode I didn't really care much for. I thought this part was a little bit silly, but the second part of this episode, as I mentioned, especially towards the end, round about the last 5 to 8 minutes, we see that Elena asked the Congress to integrate all of the factories, which they now learned would be 2 years earlier than what happened in the original timeline. And this prompts the evil Gideon to send soldiers to attack the factory. And we see very good action work here. We see the soldiers dressed in black attacking the Legends with machine guns, and we see Bishop, who essentially has always been portrayed as this kind of arrogant, cocky villain, actually sacrifices himself to allow the Legends enough time to escape in the time machine. And we see him get killed off, and we learn at the very end of this episode that the soldiers that were dressed in black are to be none other than robotic duplicates of the Legends. So they're kind of doing this whole evil team versus good guy team, which has always been a staple part of the Arrowverse, going all the way back to Crisis on Earth X, which to me is still probably the best crossover that the Arrowverse have ever done. So it looks like for episode 8, we are going to be getting good Legends versus duplicate versions of the Legends. So I think that should be a fun episode. I don't think they've ever done an episode like that. I've known they've done little bits here and there, like a certain member of the team wasn't who they say they was, and then they found out it wasn't the case. So they've done little things like that, but I do believe this is probably the first time they've done something like this. So it should be interesting to see how that's going to play out in the next episode. So Bishop sacrificing himself, interesting, not something I would have expected from a guy like him. But by and large, as I said, this episode was very up and down, but I'm going to give this um, a free pass. You know, this episode actually wasn't that bad. There was some stuff that I really didn't care much for, but by and large, I would say this episode was okay. Not as good as the 100th episode, because I still think episode 3, the 100th episode, was very good and certainly one of the best ones that the show has produced in recent seasons. So time will tell, really. But overall, up and down, but not too bad, I guess. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. So, what's your thoughts on Bishop sacrificing himself to save the legends? Do you think he could have redeemed himself and become a good guy? And also, what's your thoughts on Nate moving into the totem with the original Zari? Are you going to miss him? Do you think he will come back in some capacity? And also, what's your thoughts on the ending about robotic duplicates of the legends? How do you think that's going to play out in the next episode? And also, where do you think the legends are going to end up next in the next episode? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Legends of Tomorrow Season 7 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 8, which I am very interested to see, especially with the way this episode ended and the idea of legends facing evil versions of themselves, even if they are robotic duplicates, is very appealing to me. So, should be a good one. But we'll just have to wait and see, really. So, until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, thanks for listening.